here. Today, I am particularly grateful to President Biden and to Dr. Biden for hosting our celebration because they understand what really matters in Diwali, the people we love and the community that we build together. Everyone who works with them knows that they always put family first, and they encourage all of us to do the same. Nearly half a century ago, my family left India and eventually settled here in the United States. We missed our family in India, especially my... Hi, everyone. Happy Diwali. So glad that you're all here. Today, I am particularly grateful to President Biden and to Dr. Biden for hosting our celebration because they understand what really matters in Diwali, the people we love and the community that we build together. Everyone who works with them knows that they always put family first, and they encourage all of us to do the same. Nearly half a century ago, my family left India and eventually settled here in the United States. We missed our family in India, especially my grandparents, who had endured great hardships to make my parents' journey possible. My grandparents' faith sparked my own. It sparked my parents' faith. It helped us believe that what we lacked in money and connections, we could make up for in determination, hard work, and love. When we first arrived in Miami, my father worked overnight shifts to make ends meet. My sister and I missed him, and on many of those nights, my mother would gather us up and light the diya in the small closet that doubled as a puja room, as a prayer room in our house. By doing that, she reminded us that we were never alone, that an unwavering source of light was always around us and within us. In the years that followed, my parents built a medical practice where they cared for patients as though they were members of their own family. And over time, we built that extended family of neighbors, friends, and classmates who made America feel like home. I will always remember the time President Biden swore me in as Surgeon General when he was Vice President. It was then that he spoke with my grandmother backstage. He knelt down beside her wheelchair. He held her hand. He pointed toward the crowd that had assembled, and he said, "Grandma, look at what you did." Years later, I told President Biden how much it meant to me that he understood my family's sacrifices and their journey. But he told me that I had forgotten what he said to my grandmother next. He said, "Thank you for choosing us, the United States of America, to be your home." That is the opportunity that we are faced with today, to choose America as our home over and over again, to look at people of different backgrounds and see them as neighbors with shared hopes and dreams, to see the imperfections in our country, but still work hard to build a community where everyone cares for one another. That is the nation whose light draws and inspires millions. As we celebrate Diwali, the triumph of light over darkness, let us remember that choosing this light starts with each of us. I know the darkness can sometimes feel overwhelming. I know that. I have felt that myself. But during my years as Surgeon General, I have also seen people creating the light that we need. Families who don't have much left after a storm, but still bring food to their neighbors. Students who notice lonely classmates and decide to reach out. Parents who are stretched thin, but pitch in to take care of each other's kids. People who encounter anger and anxiety on their commute, but choose to be kind because you never know what someone else is going through. When we make these choices together, we create the kind of world that we want for ourselves and for our children. That is the message of Diwali. Choose light, always. Whatever the future may bring. Whatever the future may bring. It is our light and our fierce commitment to one another that will see us through to a better day. Now it is my honor to introduce a community member who has literally reached for the stars. Her father immigrated from India, her mother from Slovakia. She attended the US Naval Academy before becoming a naval aviator and a record-setting NASA astronaut. Her message comes to us by video because she is currently at the International Space Station, where she is conducting science experiments and managing the station's day-to-day operations while flying at 17,500 miles per hour, also known as 5 miles per second. And by the way, she knows a little something about light because she observes 16 sunrises and sunsets each day. Ladies and gentlemen, Sunita Williams.
Greetings from the International Space Station. I'm NASA astronaut Sunita Williams, and I want to extend my warmest wishes for a happy Diwali to everyone celebrating the Festival of Lights today at the White House and around the world. This year, I have the unique opportunity to celebrate Diwali from 260 miles above the Earth on the ISS. On this day, I specifically think about my father, who immigrated to the U.S. from India. He kept and shared his cultural roots by teaching us about Diwali and other Indian festivals. Diwali is a time of joy as goodness in the world prevails. I am so thankful to have grown up in a multicultural household where our parents encouraged us to seek opportunities and reach for the stars. Thank you to the President and the Vice President for celebrating Diwali with our community today and for recognizing the many contributions of our community.
Distinguished guests, the President of the United States, accompanied by Shrusti Amula.
Good afternoon and happy Diwali, everyone. My name is Shrusti Amula and I'm a freshman at Georgetown University. As I look around this beautiful room, I am truly grateful to the President and the First Lady for opening up their home to us for this special celebration. And thank you to Dr. Murthy and Sunita Williams for their opening remarks. Like so many of you here today, my family and I have a special story of what this country means to us. My parents came here to the US from India in 2001 and moved to Maryland, where my brother and I were born and raised. Growing up, Diwali was not just an occasion marked by lights and colors. It was a celebration that brought together family and community. It reinforced a deep sense of belonging and connection to our truly beautiful multicultural community. I'm so inspired to see people like me reflected in our country's leadership, from the first ever South Asian Lieutenant Governor Aruna Milliers from my home state of Maryland, who is here today, and to the first ever South Asian Vice President Kamala Harris. And it is a real honor to be here with President Biden, who started out around the same age that I am now, inspired by what was going on in the world around him. For my generation, it's the same thing. Seeing the impacts of climate change and food insecurity in my community, it led me to founding Rise and Shine Foundation, a youth-led nonprofit aimed at reducing food waste in my community and across the state of Maryland. 6 years later, we have provided over 350,000 meals, mobilized over 5,000 volunteers, and have worked with Maryland legislators to pass a bill that gives over $1 million to start compost programs across our state. Our celebration today is a chance to reflect on our personal stories and a journey of our community as a whole. No matter the challenges we face or the challenges facing our world, there is always opportunity and light. This is all that Diwali is about. And so it's inspiring to have a leader who truly sees us, believes in us, and has opened up his home to us once again. So it is with great joy and utmost respect that I ask you to join me in welcoming the President of the United States, President Joe Biden.
Well, Madam President, thank you. Shrusti, thank you for that introduction. You know, just promise me when you're president one day, and they say Joe Biden's in the waiting room, you won't ask Joe who. Okay? My wife Jill wanted to be here today, but she's traveling to Wisconsin. And Kamala couldn't be here today because she's traveling as well. They both send their love. You know, I selected Kamala to be my running mate for many reasons. She's smart, she's tough, she's trusted. A district attorney, an attorney general in California, United States senator, now vice president of the United States. There's more experience that she has than the whole of that other guy she's running against. But most importantly, and I mean it sincerely from the bottom of my heart, she has character. She has character. It's one of the things we bonded over was the role of each of our mothers played in our lives. They come from different places and different generations, different lives, but they shared a basic belief about America. Only in America is anything possible. Only in America. We just heard a great Surgeon General, and Vivek's become a friend, talk about the journey of that belief. A journey of hard work, education, entrepreneurship, belief in family, faith, and service. Contributions that come from all walks of life. Factory workers, caregivers, business owners, drivers, teachers, police officers, firefighters, artists, entertainers, and so much more, including members of Congress, 3 of whom are here today. Ro, where are you, Ro? There you go. Roger and Shri. All right. By the way, are your kids there, Ro? Come on up, guys. All right. You know, and the vice president, I don't think she's going to be stopping by, though, tonight. You know, we just heard how far that journey can take you. As we watch, Sunita Williams wish her a happy Diwali from the International Space Station. Now, we were going to do a live video, but as I pointed out already, she's traveling 17,000 miles an hour, 5 miles a second, and she's going to see 16 sunrises and 16 sunsets, all while the very precise experiments are being done. It's incredible. We couldn't figure out when the hell she'd show up. You watch the video and you see NASA's mesmerizing images of Earth, you'll notice something simple and profound. Astronauts talk about that thin blue line that separates Earth from space, life from destruction, lightness from darkness. But we thought, what a wonderful way to celebrate the Festival of Lights at the White House by looking up into the heavens, to keep our heads high as we seek the spirit of Diwali. Knowledge over ignorance, goodness over hate, unity over division, and to look up focused on the North Star of our nation. Unlike other nations in the world, we're unique in the world. We're the only nation not based on race or religion or geography. America is based on an idea, literally, the only nation in the world based on an idea. The idea is that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all women and men are created equal, endowed by their Creator, etc. We mean it. We haven't always, throughout our lives, we deserve to be treated equally. We've never fully lived up to that idea, but we've never walked away from it either. That's because of you and generations before you, bringing thousands of years of heritage, tradition, to give shape and meaning to American life, and I mean it sincerely. The first South Asians arrived in America in the late 1700s, but even into the 18 and 1900s, this diverse community contributed to the growth of this nation, even serving this nation in uniform, but were denied citizenship and equal rights. But by the time I was elected United States Senator in 1972, when I was 29 years old, a new wave of South Asians were even more welcome. You all know the stories. Many of you were the first in your families to get a formal education. They scraped together their life savings for the first flight ever, which was across the world to America. Far from family, far from home, with just a single suitcase and a few dollars in their pockets. Teaching themselves English by watching television, listening to the radio. Befriending neighbors of every background who lent a hand to help. Planting seeds of a new life in big cities, small towns, all across America that have grown into something remarkable. The South Asian American community enriched every part of American life, and that's the truth. And that is among the fastest growing, most engaged community in the country you are now. On this day in America, we think about that journey of light. Early in our nation's founding, generation before Dia, in the shadow of the suspicion, now in the time Diwali is celebrated openly and proudly here in the White House. And by the way, this is not my house, this is your house. No, it really is. It's the people's house. Every time they they introduce me, now we're going to hear from the next president. I wonder, where the hell is he? We also know today we face an inflection point on a serious note. One of those rare moments that only come in every several generations, where the decisions we make today will determine the future to come for decades, literally. Every generation has been called to move us forward, to be the nation we say we are. But only once in every few generations are we reminded not to take the idea of America for granted, because it's never guaranteed. That moment is now. American democracy has never been easy. In a country as diverse as ours, we debate, we dissent, as we forge a path forward through compromise and consensus. But the key is we never lose sight of how we got here and why. For me, 50 years of public service comes, with that comes a clarity of confidence in America. We're a nation with a heart, a soul that draws from old and new. In America, everything runs deep, especially the courage to serve and protect, to heal and to bear witness, to immigrate, to dare to dream. With my presidency, I've tried to channel that American spirit by bringing to bear all my experiences and wisdom gained from it, and to get us through one of the most difficult periods in our nation's recent history, and to be a bridge between generations, like in memory and imagination, and joined by our histories and with faith in our futures, a future with the new voices. Now it's your turn to use your voice, to talk with family and friends, to talk to the people you work with, you pray with, you go to school with. Remind them we're all part of something bigger. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart, something special. In fact, the story goes that when President Kennedy set the bold goal to send America into space, and that inspired patriots like Sunita Williams to become an astronaut. President Kennedy went to NASA headquarters. He asked a maintenance worker what his job was. And here's what the janitor replied. He said, "I'm helping send America to the moon. I'm helping send America to the moon." Folks, no matter who you are, what you do, or where you come from, we all have a role to play to keep the American experiment going. America of your dreams needs you now, quite frankly, more than ever. Let me close with this. In late November 2016, a dark cloud formed from hate and hostility toward immigrants, including South Asian Americans, that we hear once again in 2024. It was then that Jill and I hosted the first Diwali reception, and it was at the Vice President's residence. An Irish Catholic president, Vice President at the time, opening our home for holiday celebration by Hindus, Buddhists, Jainis, Sikhs, and more. How America, to remind us all of our power to be the light, all of us. Now, as president, I've been honored to host the biggest Diwali receptions ever at the White House. To me, it means a great deal. As Senator, Vice President, President, South Asian Americans have been key members of my staff. From Kamala to Dr. Murthy to so many of you here today. I'm proud that I kept my commitment to have an administration that looks like America, taps into the full talents of our nation, including the record number of South Asian Americans at every level across our entire government. I was honored to have just lit the dia with several of them, as Jill and I have done each year in office. You'll see it shortly in the Blue Room. It was a chance to wish my staff happy Diwali, but it was also a chance to thank them for their service to our country, just as I offer my thanks and gratitude to all of you that are here tonight. Together, we may show the power in the gathering of light, the light of knowledge, the light of unity and truth, the light of freedom for democracy, for America, America we share and cherish. Only in America is everything possible. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Welcome to your home. Happy Diwali, America. God bless you all.
Mr. President, so good to have you here. Frau Präsidentin des Bundesrates, Herr Präsident des Bundesverfassungsgerichtes, Herr Präsident Köhler, Mr. Secretary, sehr geehrte Herren Minister, sehr geehrte Ministerpräsidentinnen und Ministerpräsidenten, Exzellenzen, verehrte Gäste. Of the many stereotypes about Germany, our sense of humor, our spontaneity, our irresistible joie de vivre, only one is really true. We are good at keeping records. So, 44 and a half years ago, when the young Senator Joseph Biden came to Bonn, a German civil servant, ein guter Beamter, as we like to say, made a note. A rather extensive one, I should say, of this senator's visit. And being Germans, you understand, we still have that note. This one, many pages. An der Bundesrepublik Deutschland ist stark interessiert. That's the content, the main content of the report. He is keenly interested in the Federal Republic of Germany, the note concludes, and it adds that this senator might look to a, I quote again, significant political future. Significant, but a remarkable understatement. Today, you are the 46th President of the United States, and under your leadership, the transatlantic alliance is stronger, and our partnership is closer than ever. Mr. President, you are keenly interested in Germany that we have known for almost half a century. So it is time for you to know that Germany, in turn, is deeply grateful to you. Let me say, in the name of my country, thank you, Mr. President. For Germany, the friendship with the United States has been, is now, and will always be existentially important. Existential both for our security and our democracy. And yet in this friendship there have been and always will be times of proximity and greater distance, times of agreement and times of discord. Even recently, just a handful of years ago, the distance had grown so wide that we almost lost each other. But, ladies and gentlemen, throughout the ups and downs of time, there have been people who have stood by the transatlantic relations no matter what. And chief among those people, Mr. President, is you. You stand with us, sir, because you know that what binds us is so much deeper than the news of the day. What binds us is freedom, democracy, and the rule of law. What binds us is the conviction that if liberal democracy is to have a future in this troubled world, we have to secure it together. And what binds us are the lessons from our past, sacred lessons that you described so hauntingly in your letter to our beloved Margot Friedlander. So when you were elected president, you restored Europe's hope in the transatlantic alliance literally overnight. And then, only a year later, came Putin's war. When Putin invaded Ukraine, he didn't just go after one country, he attacked the very principles of peace in Europe. Putin thought we would be weak. He thought we would be divided, but the opposite was true. NATO was stronger and more united than ever, and that is in no small part, Mr. President, thanks to your leadership. Mr. President, to have you in our most dangerous moment since the Cold War, to have you and your administration on our side is no less than a historical stroke of good fortune. For us here in Europe, the past 2 years have shown once again America truly is the indispensable nation. But it has also shown something else. NATO is the indispensable alliance. So in the months to come, I hope that Europeans remember America is indispensable for us, and I hope that Americans remember your allies are indispensable for you. We are more than just other countries in the world. We are partners. We are friends. The choice on November the 5th is only Americans' choice to make. But we as Europeans have a choice too. We have the choice to do our part, to be unwavering in our support for Ukraine, to invest in our common security, to invest in our shared future, and as you have done, sir, to stand by the transatlantic alliance no matter what. Mr. President, when I visited you in the Oval Office a year ago on October the 6th, just a few hours before Hamas' brutal attack on Israel, we spoke about the Middle East. We spoke about Ukraine and Russia. But at the end, I will never forget that, at the end of our conversation, you went to your desk and handed me a speech of yours, not on foreign policy, but on the issue that you care most about and that you worry most about democracy. I quote, "Democracies don't have to die at the end of a rifle," you say in that speech. Democracies can die when people are silent, when they are willing to give away that which is most precious to them, because they feel frustrated, tired, alienated. End of the quote. Your words, Mr. President, echo deeply in our part of the world, and they weigh even more heavily coming from the leader of the world's oldest and most time-tested democracy. So let me say this from the bottom of my heart. In this time when democracy is under strain all around the Western world, you, Mr. President, have been a beacon of democracy. You are a beacon not just by what you have done, but by who you are, by the example of your humility, your deep connection with the lives and hopes of hardworking people, and, if you excuse that old-fashioned word, by your decency. Decency is maybe what we are most at risk of losing. But your decency, sir, is a light that shines very far. It certainly reached the hearts of my fellow Germans. As US President, you command the most powerful military. You lead the biggest economy in the world. But maybe the most precious service to democracy, the most joyful and reassuring thing for people is to know that even this most powerful man in the world is, in the end, a fundamentally decent human being. Mr. President, we all know that you love your Irish poets and that you know them well. I've heard you quote Seamus Heaney from memory, so I hope you allow me to end with a quote from his Republic of Conscience. I quote, "At their inauguration, public leaders must swear to uphold unwritten law and weep to atone for their presumption to hold office." The presumption to hold office, Mr. President. It seems that you have always had a deep sense of the inevitable presumption in holding office, including the highest office, in being elevated above others in a society of equals. You have transformed this presumption into a deep sense of responsibility. And you have carried that responsibility throughout your career and have now decided, in the most noble tradition of American leaders since Washington, to let democracy run its ever-changing and uncharted course. Mr. President, on the historic occasion of your visit to Germany, my country recognizes your decades-long dedication to the transatlantic alliance, your outstanding political leadership in Europe's most dangerous moment, and your lasting moral example of service, sincerity, and decency. It is now my great honor to bestow on you the Grand Cross Special Class of the Order of Merit of the Federal Republic of Germany. And for that, Mr. President, may I say, dear Joe, congratulations. I have to read the document 1 second in German. Yeah? Meine Damen und Herren, zur Verleihung des Verdienstkreuzes gehört die Verlesung der Urkunde in Deutsch. Verleihungsurkunde in Anerkennung der um die Bundesrepublik Deutschland erworbenen besonderen Verdienste verleihe ich seiner Exzellenz, Präsidenten der Vereinigten Staaten von Amerika, Herrn Joseph Biden, die Sonderstufe des Großkreuzes des Verdienstordens der Bundesrepublik Deutschland, Berlin, den 18. Oktober 2024, der Bundespräsident die Unterschrift. Und jetzt können wir noch mal herzlichen Glückwunsch sagen.
Will you take the floor for some words? Thank you. Let me begin by saying I'm overwhelmed, not just by the award, but by the words. Mr. President, Margot Friedlander, you are a voice of conscience and healing. I'm actually honored to be in your presence, for real. This award means so much to me for what it says about us. The journey we've taken, the alliance we've strengthened, the way that we have, as two separate nations, risen together to meet our moment. I think it's fair to say, although I know I only look like I'm 40 years old, I've seen a wide sweep of history. When I was born, our countries were at war. As a young senator, I visited West Berlin and saw what it meant to live in a divided city, country, and continent. And I forged a bond with Helmut Schmidt, my first relationship of candor and trust with the German Chancellor, but thankfully not my last. And then in 1989, like millions of people around the world, I saw 70,000 brave souls gathered in Leipzig, crying out for freedom. And the Berlin Wall came down 35 years ago this month. It was one of the greatest advances in human dignity in my lifetime. Some feared the reunification of Germany would revive old hatreds and rivalries. But leaders of America and Germany dreamed together of a much better future. The achievement of a Germany whole and free lives on, exceeding, I think, everyone's expectations. The dream of Europe, whole and free, remains the work of our time. Nor is that work more urgent than in pushing back against Putin's vicious attack against Ukraine. German leaders had the wisdom to recognize a turning point in history, an assault on a fellow democracy, and also on principles that upheld 75 years of peace and security in Europe. Germany and the United States have stood together to support the brave people of Ukraine in their fight for freedom, for democracy, for their very survival. And I want to thank every leader across Germany's government who has worked tirelessly to ensure that Ukraine prevails and Putin fails, and NATO remains strong and more united than ever. We head into a very difficult winter, but we cannot let up. We cannot, thank you so very much. It's kind of you. We head into a very difficult winter. We cannot let up. We must sustain our support. In my view, we must keep going until Ukraine wins a just and durable peace consistent with the UN Charter. Until once again, human dignity prevails. Let me close with this. The times I've lived through have taught me that history does move forward, and things can get better if we determine they must. That things can get better. And that we should never underestimate the power of democracy, never underestimate the value of alliances. Germany has taught us all that change is possible. And for better or for worse, countries can and do choose their own destinies. And the choices that leaders make at critical times truly matters. I want to thank the current leaders of Germany for the choice you've made when it matters most. I hope you'll forgive this once, but if I forsake the great German poets and quote an Irish poet, Seamus Heaney, said in The Cure of Troy, he said, "History teaches us not to hope on this side of the grave, but then once in a lifetime, the longed-for tidal wave of justice can rise up and hope and history rhyme." When the Berlin Wall fell, hope and history rhymed. When Kiev stood, hope and history rhymed. Many Americans and Germans always find the wisdom and the courage. May they keep making hope and history rhyme, because we can. Because nothing is beyond our capacity, in my view. Nothing is beyond our capacity when we do it together. So thank you again for this award. I'm honored to accept. I do not deserve, but I'm honored to accept. And that if we continue to work together, Germany has stood up in a way that is incredible. I want to thank you again for the award. And may God bless you all. And may God protect our troops. Thank you so very much.
Oh, wow. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. So much excitement. I know it's the Fed chair meeting, right? I know. We got Bloomberg. These, I mean, yeah. Forget about me. I know, it's not about me. Okay, so today on the final day of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, I'm excited to welcome some special guests to the briefing room today, pop phenoms BTS. Woohoo! While many of you may know BTS as Grammy-nominated international icons, they also play an important role as youth ambassadors, promoting a message of respect and positivity. After this briefing, they will join President Biden in a discussion about Asian inclusion, representation, and diversity, as well as addressing an anti-Asian hate crimes and discrimination. As many of you know, the president has led a historic whole-of-government approach to combat racism, xenophobia, and intolerance facing ANHPI communities. Beginning his first week in office when he issued a presidential memorandum leveraging the power of the federal government to stand against this hate. The president also signed the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act into law, signed an executive order to reestablish the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, and funded critical research to prevent and address xenophobia against AA and NHPI communities. So without further ado, I will let the band take it from here. They're gonna each speak. We have an interpreter somewhere here. There you go. Good to see you. So they'll each speak first, and then the interpreter will come back up and interpret what they just said. They're not going to take any questions. They're just going to come here and give some words, and then we'll start the briefing. Thank you. Go ahead, guys.
Thank you, Karine, for your kind words. And hi, we're BTS, and it is a great honor to be invited to the White House today to discuss the important issues of anti-Asian hate crimes, Asian inclusion, and diversity.
네, 오늘은 AANHPI 헤리티지 먼스의 마지막 날입니다. 저희는 AANHPI 커뮤니티와 뜻을 함께하고 기념하기 위해 오늘 백악관에 왔습니다. 네, 최근 아시아계를 대상으로 한 많은 증오 범죄에 굉장히 놀랐고 또 마음이 안 좋았는데요. 이런 일이 근절되는데 조금이라도 도움이 되고자 오늘 이 자리를 빌어 목소리를 내고자 합니다.
네, 오늘 저희가 이 자리에 올 수 있었던 것은 저희의 음악을 사랑해 주시는 다양한 국적, 언어, 문화를 가진 저희의 팬, 아미 여러분들이 계셨기에 이 자리에 올 수 있었다고 생각합니다. 정말 감사합니다.
네, 한국인의 음악이 서로 다른 언어와 문화를 넘어서 전 세계 많은 분들께 닿을 수 있다는 게 아직까지도 좀 신기하고 근데 신기한 것 같습니다. 그리고 이 모든 걸 연결을 시켜주는 음악이란 건 좀 참으로 훌륭한 매개체가 아닌가 싶습니다.
나와 다르다고 그것은 잘못된 일이 아닙니다. 옳고 그름이 아닌 다름을 인정하는 것으로부터 평등은 시작된다고 생각합니다.
네, 우리는 모두의 각자의 역사를 가지고 있습니다. 오늘 한 사람 한 사람이 의미 있는 존재로서 서로 존중하고 이해하기 위한 또 한 걸음이 되기를 바랍니다.
And lastly, we thank President Biden and the White House for giving this important opportunity to speak about the important causes, remind ourselves of what we can do as artists. Once again, thank you very much.
I'll provide an interpretation in Korean and English. 우리말과 영어로 통역 간략하게 전달드리겠습니다. 남준 씨는 친절한 소개 감사합니다. 방탄소년단입니다. 오늘 백악관에 초청받아서 반아시아계 혐오 범죄 그리고 아시아계 포용 그리고 다양성에 대해 논의하는 자리를 가지게 되어 정말 큰 영광입니다. Jun said today is the last day of the AANHPI Heritage Month. We joined the White House to stand with the AANHPI community and to celebrate. Jimmy said we were devastated by the recent surge of hate crimes, including Asian American hate crimes. To put a stop on this and support the cause, we'd like to take this opportunity to voice ourselves once again. Jacob said we are here today thanks to our army, our fans worldwide, who have different nationalities and cultures and use different languages. We are truly and always grateful. Jungkook said we still feel surprised that music created by South Korean artists reaches so many people around the world, transcending languages and cultural barriers. We believe music is always an amazing and wonderful unifier of all things. Shika said it's not wrong to be different. I think equality begins when we open up and embrace all of our differences. V said everyone has their own history. We hope today is one step forward to respecting and understanding each and every one as a valuable person. 마지막으로 중요한 문제에 대해 함께 이야기하고 우리가 아티스트로서 무엇을 할 수 있는지 생각할 기회를 만들어주신 바이든 대통령님과 백악관에 감사드립니다. 감사합니다.
What does it mean to you to come to the White House? We're gonna go. They're not gonna take any questions, but thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
BTS 화이팅!
감사합니다. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Oh. All right. Okay. Yeah. Brian, I don't know how you're gonna. Okay. I don't know. I'm excited to hear what Brian has to say. Okay. Next up, we have Brian Dees, our National Economic Director of National Economic Council, who just came out of the meeting with the President and the Fed Chair and Secretary Yellen. And so he is joining us today. So thank you, Brian, for making the time.
Thank you. Okay. So I get to go home and tell my kids that BTS opened for me. I did not expect that when I woke up this morning. And I know that you're all here to talk about trimmed mean inflation, and you're as excited about that as you are for them. So thank you for hanging in here. I just wanted to provide a little bit of context to the economic focus of the day. As you all know, the President just concluded a meeting with Chair Powell, along with Secretary Yellen and myself. It was a very constructive meeting focused on the outlook for the U.S. and the global economy. And I won't go into detail of the private meeting other than to reinforce that the President underscored to Chair Powell in the meeting what he has underscored consistently, including today, that he respects the independence of the Federal Reserve and will provide the Federal Reserve the space and the independence that it needs to tackle inflation. Also today, the President published a op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, and I will just give you a little bit of context for that piece and how we are thinking about economic priorities here. So 4 quick points. The first point is there is no question that the global economy right now faces a range of significant challenges. Inflation is first among them. It is a global challenge. We learned, for example, today that inflation in the euro area hit an annual rate of 8.1%. And it is a challenge that the President understands is hitting American families and creating anxiety and also economic hardship. As he said, he gets this. The second point is that as the President is making fighting inflation his top economic priority, it is really important that we recognize that we can take on inflation from a position of relative economic strength. That is true if we look in the global context. Few countries are better positioned than the United States to make this transition and navigate this transition that the President talked about today from historically strong recovery to more stable, resilient growth. If you look, the reason why we have those economic strengths is the strength of our recovery, the historically unique strength of our recovery. At the center of that is the labor market. You all know the statistics. I won't belabor them, but suffice it to say we have the strongest labor market in modern history, which is not only creating job opportunities to move into new careers with better pay for millions of Americans, but it is also pulling more people into the labor force. And in fact, we've seen the most rapid labor force participation rebound among prime age workers of any of the last 4 recoveries. And we're also seeing that in terms of the strength of household balance sheets as well. Savings is up Debt is down. Bankruptcy filings remain near pre-pandemic lows. Eviction filings are 30% below their pre-pandemic levels. All of these are sources of economic strength from which we can now focus on bringing prices down. The third point, this was an important piece of this, which is that the president's talking about this transition and growth. As we move through this transition, our economic growth should look different than it has in the historic recovery phase. We've run this first leg of the race at a very rapid clip. That has put us in this strong position relative to our peers. But this is a marathon, and we have to move and shift to stable, resilient growth. And that's why the president's outlining the plan that he wrote about today, which is something that he has been focused on here for some time now. Core to that are the three elements that he flagged. The first is nominating quality people to the Federal Reserve. He has done that. He got an opportunity to speak with Chair Powell today. Strong, incredibly credentialed bipartisan group. And we are hopeful that the Senate will move to confirm the last of his nominees, Michael Barr, without delay, and giving the Fed the independence to operate, which is critically important, particularly at a moment where inflation is elevated, but cannot be taken for granted, which is why the president is reinforcing it publicly today. The second is lowering costs. How can we make things more affordable for typical families during this transition period? And the third is lowering the federal deficit, which will help to ease price pressures in the economy. That is, on those second and third, that is the focus, the president's economic focus, the focus of our economic team. Many things, many of the steps therein are things that we can do on our own with executive action. There are also places where we need Congress's help and to work with Congress. But that is our overarching focus when it comes to the economy right now. So that is the context I want to provide. Happy to do whatever Karine tells me to do.
Brian, one trade-off to cutting or fighting inflation may be a change in the unemployment levels. What level of increase in unemployment does the White House see as acceptable in order to obtain lower inflation?
Well, I think that one of the things about this transition, and we are in this transition, one of the things about having the strength of the labor market recovery that we have had to date is that we are uniquely well positioned to actually move toward more stable labor market gains or gains more consistent with periods where we have had this level of unemployment in the past. And we can actually take on inflation without having to sacrifice all of those gains. And so you see that, for example, in the high rate of available jobs per worker. That can, and you've seen that start to moderate somewhat. So one of the ways that, for example, businesses can reduce their demand, if that is necessary, is to bring down the number of open jobs they have available. But that is, I think that the bottom line is we have a very strong labor market. And that is not only a source of strength for millions of people who are getting jobs or getting jobs at higher wages, it has helped to strengthen household and family balance sheets as well. So part of the reason why we have seen savings elevated and we have seen credit card payments and other debt service payments come down to historically low levels is because of the strength of the labor market. So that positions us relatively well going into this period of transition.
Just one follow-up. The president emphasized, and you just emphasized, his respect for the Fed's independence. Is he happy with what the Fed is doing?
Consistent with respecting their independence is respecting their independence. So what I would say is that he has confidence in the people that he has nominated. He is grateful to the Senate to confirming 4 of his 5 nominees, and he is focused on actually giving them the space to make those independent judgments. It certainly is the case that the president has identified inflation as his top economic priority, and he agrees with the assessment that the team at the Federal Reserve is making, and that Chair Powell is making as well. But part of providing that independence is to stay out of the business of commenting on tactics, timing, or otherwise on the monetary policy side. So you can expect that from us going forward.
Okay. A follow on that. If he's confident in the team that he's put there, is he confident that they will be able to deal with this enormous challenge, which is taming inflation and not putting the economy into a recession?
Well, I think that what the president is and what we are very confident in is that we can approach this challenge and we can focus our efforts on bringing inflation down without having to sacrifice all of the economic gains that we've made because of the unique